Welcome to Somerset Showcase. Over our next few shows, we're going to be interviewing some of the candidates who won in the election for the first time this year and are going to be serving in our town government. Today we are going to be talking with Steve Cadorette, who won a seat on the Water and Sewer Commission in this year's election. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
So this was your first election, and I know you said in the beginning that you're not a politician, really. So tell me how you approached the election as far as getting votes to win the seat.
So what I did was I have to thank my mother and my wife and my brothers because they all helped me out. And the way we approached it was, like when I did the first statement here, the approach was that it was more like you're applying for a job, and then just try to just say the qualifications that I had. And then I had spoken to Bob Bazikowski, the former superintendent, and gotten some idea of what the issues were now. And I was able to put out a second document that kind of went through those issues and some stands that I had on some of the issues that are currently facing the Water and Sewer Department.
And you have a lot of experience related to the Water and Sewer Department that are going to help you in this position.
Yeah, I have about 32 years of civil and environmental engineering experience. Worked on projects that involve water treatment and wastewater and other environmental issues, permitting issues. I've worked on a lot of public projects, and public projects are a lot different than working on private projects. So I have a good background in that, and the bidding process, the process during construction. So no, I think it'll be a help.
So when you get into a position like this, there must be a lot that you have to learn in the beginning. What have you done to start familiarizing yourself with the Water and Sewer Departments?
Well, so the election was Monday. We actually had a meeting on Wednesday afternoon. And so that was good because it gave me some background. Also, I'm going to go to on a tour of the water treatment facility with Mr. Wickham. I got to schedule that for either this week or next week. And then Mr. Garcia at the sewer plant, he was out right now. When he comes back, I'll do the same thing with the sewer plant, just to kind of familiarize myself with each area, the water and the sewer area. And then I think the third piece is kind of the office piece, the billing, the customer service piece. I like to also try to get familiar with that and how that works.
Okay. So the last couple of weeks they've been doing the hydrant flushing in town, and I think a lot of people get confused about that. They get dirty water, and they're like, why do we have dirty water? And can you explain that and why it's important for the water department to do that?
Sure. So when I went to the meeting Wednesday, Mr. Wickham was explaining the hydrant flushing. What that does is there are deposits that build up in the lines, and that flushing they're doing right now is more of a higher pressure flushing than what they had done in the past. And the idea is to get the deposits out of the line. So because those deposits get freed up during the flushing, then that's why you get the discolored water while they're doing the hydrant flushing. So that's why they need to put the signage to alert people that they're doing the hydrant flushing.
I took a picture of some of the stuff that came out of those pipes about a week ago, and I think people were surprised when they saw some of the material that came out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you get deposits that build up on the inside walls. I think people think of water piping as it's always just a tube that doesn't have anything on it, and the water just kind of flows through it. That's not the case. There are deposits that build up depending on the source of the water. For instance, in the village, when the source of water used to be the well in Dighton, there's iron and manganese in the water that comes out of the well, and that can get deposited on the pipes. So.
And we've got some really old pipes in town too, right? They go back quite a ways.
They were saying that the original area of Somerset that had public water was the village, and the source was the well, and they said some of that piping could date back to the 1890s. So
wow.
That's old piping.
So they also just approved of the sewer agreement with Swansea. How do you feel about that agreement?
I think that that could be a good source of revenue for the department. The department has excess sewage treatment capacity, and when they complete they're doing an infiltration inflow project right now. But there is excess sewer treatment capacity, so it's a source of revenue to the department, and I think that'll be a big help. I think that's a good idea. If you have excess capacity, you might as well use it, and that'll be a good use of that excess capacity.
Do you think we should continue to look for other towns for both water and sewer agreements? I know they have a big excess of the water because they said they used to sell a lot of it to the power plants that they're not selling anymore. During some of the Water and Sewer Commission meetings, I remember Scott O'Brien joking that he'd like to see a brewery coming into town because they use a lot of water. But do you think we should look for other agreements to sell water to bring in more revenue to help with these expenses?
Yeah, I do think that. I think that we have excess capacity. We used to sell 1 million gallons of water a day to the power plants. Obviously, that's not happening anymore. So you have this excess capacity. They've looked into possibly supplying some water to Swansea. Swansea has, their water comes from their well field, and they have the desalinization plant. They have mandatory water bans, so that to alleviate that may be a potential to sell water to Swansea. Same situation with Dighton. They've explored trying to sell some water to Dighton because we do have excess capacity for drinking water, and if you have that capacity, you might as well use it.
Yeah, we're lucky that we have a reservoir because not all towns have that. Some of them, they have to get their water from wells, and I used to work in a town where they had to do that rather than getting it from the town. So that's like a benefit we can use to help attract businesses.
Yeah, that was certainly very good forward thinking to have that reservoir there, and the water from the reservoir, from what I understand, is pumped from the Segregated River in Dighton. The town has water rights to the water in the Segregated River, so that's used to replenish the reservoir. So no, that's certainly very good to have that. So that is the main source of drinking water in town. As a matter of fact, I don't think right now, my understanding is that they're not using the well in Dighton at all right now. So that is the reservoir is the only source of drinking water right now.
There's been a lot of talk about the sewer plant and the upgrade that we're going to need to do there and how much that will cost. But we don't really seem to have a timetable because it's been in court over in Taunton, and I guess Somerset may not get its permit until that all gets worked out. So how aggressive should we be as far as planning for that, and did they have a schedule of how they want to increase the water rate for that? Knowing that, not really knowing when we're going to have to do this yet.
I think it's a good idea to start to build up some funds for the engineering cost. It's been estimated that the engineering cost is going to be $9 million. So rather than have that all come onto the rate at once, if they're planning ahead by putting some money aside for those upfront engineering costs, I think is a real good strategy. As far as the permit, I think you're correct that Taunton is in court right now, and until that issue gets settled, we won't get a draft permit from EPA. But we do have I think there is an idea of what the limits are going to be in the permit, and the driving force is the nitrogen limit in the permit. So that until you get the permit, you don't know exactly what that's going to be, but they have a good idea of what that will be, the limit will be, and that's where that estimated cost for the plant upgrade comes from.
And I think when they were interviewing for new water and sewer superintendents, they really wanted someone who could deal with big construction projects, and that's a big part of the reason why. Have you met the new superintendent yet?
Yeah, I did. So I met Mr. Sylvia at the meeting Wednesday. He was at the meeting Wednesday. I met him. I was there when they did the interviews. He certainly has a strong background in design and construction, public works construction related to sewage treatment. So I think that he'll be an asset during that process.
Okay. So you've been on the Zoning Board of Appeals for a long time. With your new responsibility and the time that's going to take, are you going to be able to continue with the ZBA, or?
It was my understanding when I took the nomination papers, I talked to Dolores, the town clerk, and because the Zoning Board of Appeals is an appointed board and the Water and Sewer Commission is an elected board, that you could serve on both. However, I did ask that they get, after I was elected, I did ask that they get an opinion. So we're still waiting for a final opinion on that. I did say when I ran, and I meant it, that because my understanding was that one was an appointed board, one was an elected board, that my appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals is through 2022, and that I would stay on the Zoning Board of Appeals through the end of my appointment at least. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Because you've had a lot of work on that board during the past year, especially.
It's been a lot of time.
And one of them obviously has had to do with Brayton Point, and I know there was an article recently you wanted to address one of the points that were in that article.
Yes, there was an article in Commonwealth Magazine, and one thing that it said was it talked about some of the issues that have been raised by the residents down there, and then it talked about that the citizens pressured the Zoning Board of Appeals to deny the planned development to expand the commodities at the site. I don't think that's accurate. As a matter of fact, I know it's not accurate. It was not any pressure from any citizens group that led the Zoning Board of Appeals to make that decision. The reasons why we made that decision are clearly stated in the decision itself. The Zoning Board has to uphold the law, and it has to uphold the bylaw. And in the case of the expansion, the three members of the Zoning Board of Appeals who voted against it all expressed that they felt that the proposed expansion did not meet the zoning bylaw requirements.
Okay. Now, your uncle had a big impact on the Water and Sewer Commission. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
My uncle Jack Bauer was on the Water and Sewer Commission. When I was talking to Scott O'Brien, we were trying to figure out just how long. It was somewhere between 40 and 50 years, I believe.
Yeah, it was over 50 years,
Yeah.
because when he made 50 years, I did a big story on him.
Really?
I remember that, yes.
Okay. I didn't want to overstate it, but he would.
Yes.
From the time I was a child, I can remember he was on the board. It was just the water board at that time, and he was a very intelligent man. He had a technical background that was very good. He certainly took a lot of interest in that. He always seemed to spend a lot of time on that, so he was very devoted to that. And I think that his devotion as a board member was very helpful for the department, because he spent so much time, he was so involved in the issues, and helped to try to find solutions to the issues that came up. So no, he was. That's a long time to be on a board.
Yeah, I know he took a lot of pride in it, because whenever they would win an award over there, he would call me to come take a picture. And it seemed like they won something almost every year for the water department there.
Yeah, he really enjoyed that. He was very proud of that.
So they're also doing a big solar project over at the water department, and a lot of people seem to notice it as they're driving by, and there's been some comments on social media about it. How do you feel about that project, and how it's going to help the department to save some money on electricity?
When the project's completed, they estimate that it's going to pay about 60% of the electrical cost. So that's a huge chunk of the electrical cost that's going to come from that solar panel project. I think that's a very good idea. I think anything you can do to drive down cost is a good idea. I mean, let's face it, solar panels are not exactly the most aesthetically pleasing things, but I think that the savings in electricity offsets the aesthetic effects. I mean, I think people have to realize it's a water treatment plant. It's really an industrial facility, And I know that sometimes you don't look at that because you think drinking water, and it seems to be something that's more pristine than an industrial facility. But I think whatever they can do to drive down the cost and the solar panels with the electricity is one example of that. I think that's a positive.
Because the water and sewer departments, aren't they like the highest users for electricity as far as the town departments go? Not they're right up there.
I would believe so. Yeah. I don't know that for a fact, but I would believe that's
because
I mean, the equipment in both plants. I mean, there's just a lot of equipment.
Because it's constantly running, right?
So, right.
Oh. Okay, and you also do some interesting stuff outside of the Water and Sewer Commission and the Zoning Board. You're a referee for college football, and you just told us you're heading out this weekend somewhere. How long have you been a referee for football?
Oh, so my last year of college, the fall of 1980, I took the test. I had one of my teachers in school was Jim Sullivan, who used to be the football coach at Somerset, and then he became an official. So I had him in class. I also used to live near him. He didn't live like I lived. I grew up on Etna Street. He lived right up the street. So he used to talk about it in class. So then I decided to take the test. I took the test in 1980, passed. So I did high school football, and then just about 18 years ago, I took the test to do college football, and it's been high school and college football has been a great experience. I've gotten the chance to do high school Super Bowls in Gillette. I've gotten the chance to travel up and down the East Coast doing college football. I did 2 Division II playoff games. When I had never gone to West Virginia. I did a Division II playoff game at Shepherd University in West Virginia. I was fortunate enough to do the Harvard-Yale game in 2019. That was the one with the demonstration at halftime. That was certainly an interesting experience. And as George just said, I was very fortunate to be nominated for a playoff game this year. It's been a strange college football season, but the FCS is having playoffs, and this Saturday I'm going to go to North Dakota for a playoff game, Missouri State against North Dakota.
You must enjoy doing that. Although isn't that kind of a thankless job, being a referee? I mean,
people say that. If you don't love it, you wouldn't do it. But I don't know that it's thankless. I spent some time coaching. When I first got to college, I taught high school. So I did some high school coaching. And then I coached my daughters when they played softball. And I think, you just got to realize everybody has a role. The coaches have a role. They have to represent their teams. They certainly have to do what they can for their players. The officials are just kind of the arbiter in between the two teams and just making sure that things are done according to the rules. And I don't know that it's thankless. You certainly get a lot of rewards out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some experiences, and I've met through the college level that I do right now. This will be the 8th year I've done that level. I've worked with people on my crew. We work in crews of 7. So I've worked in crews with people from North Carolina, Virginia. I certainly wouldn't have met these people. Extremely nice people. You develop a friendship. You know that when you go to certain areas, if you travel and it's off season, you could call them and go out to dinner with them or something. So it's been a great opportunity. And then I'll tell you, football thing, I have to thank my wife for that because it's a lot of time. The level that I do right now, I leave on Fridays, sometimes come home late on Saturday, or sometimes don't get in until the next day on Sunday. So it's a lot of time. I started to do college football. I gave it up because of the time, because we had 4 daughters. When they got older, that's when I went back to college football, and I just like to thank her because it's a lot of time, and you need a lot of support for that kind of time.
Are there any games that you'd like to do? Are there any big games that?
I always wanted to do Harvard-Yale, so then I get to do that. I mean, I think it won't happen, but I think some game at the next level. So the level I work is FCS. It's the old Division I AA. I think doing a Division 1A game would be a thrill to do. But at my age, I'm not going to advance to that level. So, you know, that would be the thing. But I think as far as what games I like to do, no, I think when I did Harvard-Yale, that was certainly one that I wanted to do.
Wasn't Chick Marchand, the old town administrator, he was a college football official too, right?
So, yeah, when I first got in to high school football, Chick was the rules interpreter for the high school board in this area. He was a tremendous asset. He was a very good football official. He knew the rules like nobody else. Someone would ask a question and he could cite the rule reference and the page in the rule book. He was unbelievable. I was fortunate enough to do a couple of games with him. I can remember one time I drove with him and Jim Sullivan to do a game down in Barnstable. And that's something I remember. And I want to say that was 35 years ago probably. But that was a memorable experience.
Well, Jim Sullivan also is a legend in this town.
I mean,
obviously he coached Jerry Remy and Greg Gagne.
Right.
Those are two good guys to learn from, I would think.
Well, Jim was a great football coach, you know. And when he stopped coaching and began officiating, he was a real good football official too. And just a really nice guy. Without him, I wouldn't have gotten into this without him. He was the one I talked to about getting into this. He got me in touch with the people to take the test. So, I mean, if it hadn't been for him, I would never have gotten into this. I'll tell you another person from this town who was a huge help to me football-wise was Ray Billington. Ray Billington was the high school commissioner for a few years when I was doing just high school. And he was a huge help. He was a really nice guy. Another real knowledgeable guy. So.
Yeah, another selectman in town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Did you play football in high school? Did you?
No, I played my freshman year, and that's it. When I graduated from high school, I weighed about 150 pounds.
Okay.
So no, I played basketball, but not football.
Okay. But you've lived in Somerset your whole life?
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Those are all my questions. Thanks for coming in, and good luck with your new job.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking me here to do this. Thank you very much. Thanks.
That was Steve Cadorette, and we will be interviewing some of the other people who won spots on committees and boards in town for the first time in this year's election.